Hey, it's Ciarán on his lonesome at the beginning of this bonus episode for reasons you could probably guess. For the sake of the record, I'm going to say that it is Saturday, 26th of February at 25 past 10 Berlin time. Just to give you an idea in the context in which what I'm about to say is being said. So, what happened? Well, since you probably last heard from us on the feed, the most recent episode that we've published was our episode about France and Mali and the Wagner group. That was recorded a week ago, actually, last Saturday. But it came out on Monday, so to give you a context of what's happened since. Late on Monday, President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, made a speech. And you've probably heard a lot about the speech. There's some good pieces out there analysing the speech. But for the sake of the rest of this conversation, there's 3 points I want to bring up. First is a kind of like complete disregard for Ukraine as a state. Basically argues that Ukraine is a invention of the Bolsheviks, which then leads to this very aspect of the speech, which is the strong anti-communism. I think it's important that we remember this in this time, that Putin is a Russian nationalist that glorifies the Russian Empire more so than the USSR. And I think that's pretty evident in this speech. But to this point, disregards Ukraine as an entity. I'm one who would disregard all kind of national myths, and Ukraine is Ukraine now. I don't really care how or when it came about. I don't think that's germane to any kind of discussion, especially the incoherent history and nonsense that Putin seems to suggest. It means, basically. Not phrasing myself very well here, but it's late. There was also, and this will come up later, talks of denazification of Ukraine. The idea that Ukraine needs denazification more so than a handful of other nations. Like what's happening with Ukraine's military and its Nazi links is not too far off to things we've talked about in the past with modern day German military, and certainly isn't far off from what's happening in modern day Russian military. It's But anyway, the denazification line is important for other reasons, which we will get into later. In this speech, he recognized the independence of the Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic, which you might hear in press and media referred to as the DNR or LNR, or sometimes collectively known as Donbass, which is, I believe, the historical name for the region that they both occupy, while Donetsk and Luhansk are named for more modern administrative regions. Yeah, this is a move he did. However, later in the week, early Thursday morning in Eastern European time, a couple of hours actually before we did the Eurovibe stream, after I had gone to bed, but Rob actually stayed up and was keeping abreast of all this information, Russia conducted an invasion from 3 points, if I'm not mistaken, from the south via Crimea, from the east into a city called Kharkiv, and from the north from Belarus towards Kiev, because the Belarusian border is the closest point of entry to Kiev, the capital. Yeah. Vladimir Putin on Thursday morning got on TV and claimed it was a special military operation to protect Ukraine's separatist Donbass region, which is nothing. In effect, this was a declaration of war in all but of name. That speech was followed pretty quickly by reports of explosions near, if not in, several Ukrainian cities, including Kiev, Kharkiv, and Odessa. It seems now that Ukrainian officials are reporting Russian ground forces landing in Odessa, Mariupol, crossing the border near Kharkiv, all of which lie well outside the Donbass region. But those reports remain unconfirmed as far as I know. So time of Thursday morning, those were unconfirmed reports. I'm pretty sure all of those things are confirmed now. The Ukrainian government has imposed martial law, which was a step up from the state of emergency they were in beforehand. It's unclear at this point whether a diplomatic solution for this, before this invasion happened, was ever really possible. I personally think it was maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, but that discussion is unfortunately pointless now. It's purely academic. That leads us to present day, which, for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to call the fog of war territory. A lot of information is coming in and all sorts of media outlets. I'm sure you've seen all sorts of stuff. If people are interested, the Discord for the podcast has the Eastern European regional channel where a lot of discussion and a lot of stuff that our listeners have been finding are, posting and talking about and discussing and stuff like that. But anything that I say now is probably going to be wrong by the time you listen to it. Things have been proven to be false a year after the conflict took place. It's a confusing time, and not to mention there's going to be propaganda both from Russia and Ukraine in a way to keep morale for both of those armies up to continue invading or defending. It's a confusing time. If you want to keep up with it, by all means, I'll list off some recommendations of decent journalists to follow, but I can't go through it now. It's going to, by the time I publish this, a lot of it's going to be just wrong or no longer germane. Yeah. So for the sake of transparency, there was a bonus episode that we recorded on Wednesday, but most of what we discuss in that episode is not really relevant since this invasion happened. There was some stuff towards the end that was a bit more comedic that I have actually strapped onto the end of this little solo thing of me and Rob kind of ragging on some people on Twitter that I think is still relevant and still, not wrong. So, for a little bit of levity, that will be available after I'm done saying our little piece here. So, if it's not obvious yet, I'm going to say it. We were wrong. So, basically what we thought, pretty much all four of us on Corner Späti thought that the invasion would not happen. I can speak for myself and say specifically that on Wednesday night and what was recorded in that last bonus episode, I thought that Russian troops were going to enter into the territory controlled by the DNR and LNR. If anyone remembers the chat on Wednesday evening, it was about whether Putin was going to recognize the DNR and LNR as the areas that they currently controlled versus whether they're going to recognize them as the areas that they claim. Because if they recognize the areas that they claim, that would have also meant war between Ukraine and Russia. I thought they were going to go into the actual, de facto territory, the ones actually controlled by them, as an effort to further destabilize Ukraine and from the Russian perspective, force them into a Minsk III, if you will, something a bit more favorable to the Russian position. So why were we wrong? I mean, it's very obvious now, but I'd like a little bit of a chance to explain myself. Up until this point, and I think it's served us well, we have gone off of the idea that Putin is a rational actor. Putin does the things that he does, not because of what a lot of Western media will tell you, that he's like crazy or evil or villainous or dastardly or whatever kind of ideological points of view that I think are poor explanations for any world leader, any state, anything like that. We came from the perspective that Putin does what he does to protect himself, his power, and Russia's interest, quote unquote Russia's interest, Russia as he sees what Russia should be, or his Russia, not like poor Russians' Russia, It's hard to talk about this, yeah, but still, you get what I mean. We'd point to the examples of the track record of Russia's military since Putin has taken over as largely getting their way and being fairly tactical and somewhat savvy. They basically got their way in Syria. They're getting their way in West Africa, although that's technically the Wagner group rather than the armed forces, as much as there is a meaningful distinction between those two things, which is not great. They pretty much got their way in the initial Ukrainian conflict back in 2014, 2015, a little bit, yeah. They got Crimea, and they got their way in the 2008 Georgian War, and they got their way in the Chechen War. So the track record was looking pretty good, and you have to attribute that to some sort of well-advised military maneuvers. The other reason that we didn't think this was going to happen is the move is incredibly risky. So we're pointing out, and I still think this, that if Putin fails to take Ukraine, that I feel like Putin is effectively done within Russia. Some people might think that's true, and that's fine. I've been wrong before, as this section is basically getting to. But it does seem like a putting it all on black kind of moment for Putin that we've never really seen him do something that risky, something that would jeopardize his position if he lost that much. I would describe most of his past maneuvers as if he wins, he gains something small. If he loses, he doesn't really lose all that much. I can say for myself right now that what I think currently is that this move is a mistake, that Putin is a rational actor, but he is fucked up. What I mean by that is I think we could be looking at a Russian version of the Iraq War, where Russian forces are capable of taking the Ukrainian army, but have absolutely no hope of occupying the country. And people are making comparisons to 2008 and saying it could be a quick operation, and I'm open to that idea that they'll want to make this as quick as possible, but I bring back the denazification line. Even if you did believe that all of Ukraine is Nazis, which is just not true, but denazification implies a long-term project, which is why I am open to the possibility that they want to occupy Ukraine, not simply move in, cause damage, and force some sort of more Russian favorable agreement on the Ukrainian government, which is what happened in Georgia, effectively. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. The other thing that other reason I think it's a mistake is we can also talk about what's happening domestically within Russia currently. From the reports I saw last, but keep the fog of war caveat in the back of your head there. But from what I saw recently was it's something polling has it about that 40% of the Russian population is against the war. That's not including don't knows. So I believe 40% is the largest, the plurality, not a majority, but the plurality. And that's pretty sizable accomplishment considering how much United Russia, how much Putin has control of the media. There were anti-war protests in about, if last I saw, 53 different Russian cities. These are protests undertaken by people who know full well what it means to be on the wrong side of the Russian police. And we're also seeing things like large Russian celebrity protests, public spectacles of that nature, people who have platforms within Russia kind of speaking out against this, as well as the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, the KPRF, who is the largest opposition party, have also stated they are against the war, with members of that party leaving the Duma in the parliament in protest. So, yeah, that's interesting. Which also kind of leads to why I think it's a mistake. But yeah, wanted to be honest and say we were wrong. The reason why I think it's important to say that we were wrong is also that as some people might rub it in my face or our faces and the faces of the various journalists and researchers and whatnot that we were kind of following the work of and listening to, who were also wrong about this, who've all also said and admitted that they were wrong. The reason why we think it's important is because there is a great deal of many journalists and pundits and whatnot out there who will just, for lack of a better term, post through it and not say that they're wrong. Speaking of Iraq, this does remind me of a lot of people in 2002 who, or from 2002, who are still in the media class today, who've never really admitted that their talk of weapons of mass destruction was wrong. Yeah. Naturally enough, before you started to see a kind of with us or against us rhetoric, that is upsetting. I've seen everyone basically be called a tanky or pro-Putin. It's all very confused, and it's attacking like very unideological, like freelance journalists who've worked for the BBC. It's attacked like people have said that towards us on Twitter, who have attacked like Milo, Alice from Trash Future, things like that. It's all very strange, like very strange from my perspective, because like Alice actually predicted this. She thought the invasion would happen. But yeah, it's the space is getting weird, and something I've been thinking about since this has started is there is a radical act in remembering. It is the job of the left to remember, and I think it is important to remember kind of what got us here. The weeks, months before all this happened, there's still a lot of unanswered questions there, and some of them possibly never be answered. But yeah, all of this is, of course, to say that no matter how much we do critique the state of the Ukrainian government before this happened, NATO, the way Joe Biden's White House handled this intelligence, yeah, the blood is on Putin's hands. This response is horrifying. That being said, people who've been listening to Corner Späti for a while know that we're not necessarily going to be a current events podcast. We cannot give you live updates from what's happening. we don't have a turnaround for this podcast that would make that useful enough. There are people I can recommend, but I'm also going to say that this is not the last you'll hear of this topic, naturally enough. To give you a sneak preview, we have plans of talking to some experts about like the sanctions, how much damage they can do, will do, how much Russia can resist that, as well as like post-Soviet invasion, post-Soviet revolutions, and as well as we'd also like to talk about 2008 with the Russo-Georgian War. Yeah. Won't be the last you hear from us on this topic, for sure. Lastly, some recommendations, because we said that we can't really provide you up-to-date coverage, but we can recommend some people who are good follows on Twitter and things like that, or good journalists you can check out their work of. Ben Aris, or Aries, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, there'll be links to all this in the description, is a kind of like business journalist focusing on like the post-Soviet countries and their relationships. A good one to follow for the economic effects of all of this in Ukraine and Russia, the economic effects of the sanctions. Vladimir Ischenko, who is head of Eastern European Studies at FU Freie Universität here in Berlin. He's Ukrainian, and he's written a lot of really good stuff in recent days about what is happening and what he thinks is going to happen. Not one for tweeting too often, but certainly writes often enough, and he will tweet the links to the pieces he puts out. Lots of different languages too. So if you're a Dutch or German speaker, he's got some stuff probably written in that. Leonardo Ragozin, who is a freelance Russian journalist based in Riga, is also writing a lot of good stuff for Al Jazeera, as well as tweeting quite regularly his thoughts and kind of corrections on like popular simplistic narratives. Sopa okay. Ooh, it's a lot of names I can't pronounce. Sopa Yaparidze, I think that's how you pronounce it. She is a labor union leader and a host of the Reimagining Soviet Georgia podcast. She's, again, has written some really great stuff in the past about Georgia, but is also tweeting and, you know, talking about a lot of this stuff naturally enough. Again, good one for sources. Beyond that, I can also recommend the Foreign Exchanges newsletter. I've been a big fan of them for a while. They will send you an email, basically, I believe, twice a week or so, of just kind of like a roundup of what's been happening in the world. And they do their due diligence. Strongly recommend. I'd say also there's a Jared Toll, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's written a book called Near Abroad, which is about Russia's foreign policy of the last 10 years. He had a great interview in Jacobin recently. He does some independent surveys in Ukraine, including within the LNR, DNR, that I think are very interesting to read about, even though this interview was conducted after Putin's speech and recognition of DNR, LNR, but before the invasion started. I still think it's a pretty good piece. Last little recommendation, and one that's maybe a bit more fun, is Dan Beckner, a musician and co-host of The Bottlemen, a podcast about Canadian politics, has always been a particularly good source on Eastern European politics. I believe he's of diaspora. I'm not entirely sure which one. Main reason I'm recommending him, though, is that there is I believe a listener of this podcast who is Ukrainian, who is always been reporting on the far right in Ukraine, but for that reason his account is locked. And he's in Ukraine currently, and he is tweeting about that. Dan Beckner is tweeting the screenshots of this person's stories, which I find very interesting and important to hear right now. He's doing his due diligence and, you know, censoring his name and picture and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's my recommendations. Before I leave you to get into a conversation that me and Rob had, which was a bit more light, a bit more usual corner Späti fare. I will say that this happened, on Wednesday the 23rd, before the invasion occurred. So if you find anything that's said there weird in that new context, that's why. And also that the main feed episode this week is still going to be the Q&A episode for our 3-year anniversary, just so people are aware. I think Nick does a good job beforehand of saying that, we know about the invasion and we're going to talk about it in the future. Before I leave you talk about that, I can only say what we've said from the Corner Späti Twitter account, what we've said on the Patreon feed. Solidarity with the ordinary people of Ukraine and the anti-war protesters and activists in Russia and around the world. This is genuinely horrifying.
Do we want to talk about some stupid posts?
Absolutely. Now I was not excited to talk about it, but now, as I often do, I've talked myself into it by coming up with a absurd theory in which it makes sense. And so in this schema, these two individuals are ahead of their time in the sense that they're European posters who are adapting to the new American style of warfare in the old countries.
Which one?
I gotta respect that.
Which one we don't want to talk about first? We want to talk about our new character, or do you want to
the new one?
A new one.
We should talk about this.
Rob, did you know I'm a Finnish leftist?
I'm a capital F, capital L Finnish leftist.
I mean, I do kind of want to change my name on Twitter to as a Finnish leftist.
As a Finnish leftist. That's a great way to weigh in on basically any debates you might be having.
Yeah. I don't really know how to describe. It's a huge thread, absolutely fucking monstrously long thread, which this guy did not do the numbers thing, which I feel like is just common courtesy if you're going to write a big thread.
Yeah,
just let me know how long this is going to be. Just let me know, out of what number? Come on, you Twitter allows you to post it that way now. You can queue up posts and post them all at once. You can figure out how many numbers it's going to be. Yeah.
It was a breathless, passionate statement.
Yeah.
There's no time for numbers.
Greetings. Do you want me to just go through all of this?
No, pick out the best. I mean, I know there's a lot to say.
I'm going to go through the first.
What's his name? Can we just say his name? I've been thinking of him as fish emoji.
Yeah,
because
sure.
He has a fish emoji in his name. I don't know what it means.
Jana M. Korhonen, Finnish flag, EU flag, fish emoji, Ukrainian flag.
What we've been pretty neutral on the EU question, but I'm being pushed to a
the EU.
Why? What are these leftists doing with the EU? What do you think is going to happen?
So, okay, the EU is a beast that requires in-depth and interesting analysis. Everyone with an EU flag emoji in their fucking handle on Twitter, psychopaths, absolute monsters.
Absolute psychopaths.
Okay, so the first in a long chain was greetings from a Finnish leftist. The international situation has apparently left many people in the English-speaking countries confused. Interesting. I write this thread in the hopes of sharing a perspective I believe is widely, if not unilaterally shared, in Finland, most leftists included. So I'm trying to think of...
That's a citation needed.
Yeah. So,
I mean, honestly, I don't know what he means by leftists. Now I'm just sure, you can call yourself whatever you want. I mean, it didn't have that much meaning in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, this is very diluted. I mean, it's very telling that everyone who liked this retweeted, commented saying this was good were FBP British people who all vote Lib Dem. There was also a tweet directly underneath. It's as a Finnish conservative, I agree. And I was well, I think that tells you
things must be great in Finland. There's no problems. Everyone agrees on everything.
Politics is dead.
That's the kind of country I wish I lived in.
All hail the fish, which is now Our new symbol. The second tweet, which is important, these top three are probably very important. What we see happening in Ukraine, hashtag Ukraine, right now is, to put it bluntly, Russian, or more precisely, the Kremlin's imperialism. Sure. If no other evidence convinces you, I beseech you to read a translation of Putin's speech yesterday, which we talked about. It's fucking vile. This has okay, so the third tweet. This has very little, if anything, to do with NATO. Wrong.
it's
Wrong. Out the gate. Stupid. Stupid fucking idiot. And almost everything to do with Putin's desire to reinstate the Russian Empire. He has consistently maintained in public that it was a mistake, quote, to allow, quote, the former Soviet republics to become independent. Okay, so this is true. But this is something that the interview with Gerard gets to, which is like an incredibly stupid, problematic view of like Russian foreign policy, which is Russian foreign policy is decided upon in a vacuum. Like this explanation that it's purely down to Putin's desires to reinstate, more accurately, not the USSR, the Russian Empire, which I do believe is something he would like. Like, don't get me wrong. I think him and people in his circles do kind of like fantasize about that. But like that's purely done in this vacuum, that Russia is not responding to outside forces, namely NATO, an organization that is expressly anti-Russian at this point, is like stupid. And just like imagines, because like, and it's a narrative that's going to get more and more popular because, I think rightfully so, it's very useful to the West because it imagines the problem as solely being Russia's problem. The call is coming from within the house, blah blah blah. Like it only comes from Russia. Russia is the problem. They have this weird way of thinking. It can't be a response to outside forces. Like, yeah. Which is because like the American model proves that you can have a bunch of countries subservient to you that you don't have to annex. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Putin would be pretty happy like if all these countries were like on paper independent but still just like in his sphere of influence. Like, I don't think he feels the need to annex Belarus. He might. But I don't think he feels the need to.
What if we said that the EU lib longs to recreate the European empire to dominate the globe with a little thing called democracy?
Yeah. The other stuff I'm going to skip over, he talks about like, this is important because I'm Finnish and Finland gained independence from Russia in 1917. Let's not talk about what the Finns were like immediately after that point. A lot of stuff saying that he's not afraid of NATO. That's not true. There's like literally leaked memos from the CIA that expressly say Russia is afraid of NATO and countries that border them joining, particularly Ukraine. Only after Putin's blatant 2008 and 2014 breaches of post-World War II convention, again, the interview, 2008, Georgians... Not how you think that shook out. I'm going to link it in the description because like that interview was very good. He literally uses the term "truthy" to describe how like people understand what happened in Georgia as like that seems right, but it actually isn't. Let's see. He says that it's like it's fine because they have nukes. And then we get into the spread of democracy theory.
Yep.
Which he talks about. Okay, so this is the tweet. Democratic, successful countries bordering European Russia, it's interesting that he specifies that, are a menace to him personally. They show the Russians an alternative and can serve as sanctuaries for dissidents that Putin would like to invite for tea by the window. All right.
Is that the move?
Throwing someone out the window, I think, is like this supposed tactic of the modern FSB. Right. I haven't looked into it and how true that actually is, but like they do get rid of people they don't like, sure.
I just want to take notes. Don't if someone invites you to tea by the window, don't go. That's a life lesson.
So the spreading of democracy theory, I think, is very like late Cold War bullshit. That's like proven not to be true. Like, I think
Really? Why would you say that?
I know, right? Listen to our last main feed episode where we talked about like a series of coups happening in Africa in the space of 2 months. It's facile. It's stupid, childish nonsense that doesn't account for like democracies that were undone, or like a bunch of democracies, or like degrees of democracy. Like, you can vote in Russia. Like, yeah. And also, I would believe this if Russia was like North Korea, but Russian people can and do frequently leave Russia and see the rest of the world. And a lot of them are relatively fine with what Russia is doing. Like, unfortunately, Putin is still popular. So, like, and they get media from the outside world. There isn't like a great firewall like in China. Like none of this is complete bullshit. Also, the fact that it's like successful countries bordering European Russia is like, okay, but why does Vladivostok not count? Like, there are people who live in the east of Russia. There are cities there. Why does like so many democracies have bordered Russia for ages?
I really like how you're trying to.
I'm really
give
trying
him the time of day,
but like it's so provably falsifiable. I'm going by very liberal definition of democracy. We can talk about the degrees of democracy. We can talk about how like liberal democracy is kind of a joke, but like by their own definition, liberal democracies that have bordered Russia for a very long time: Norway, Finland, Lithuania, Estonia, Mongolia, the USA, Japan. Like,
I kind of feel about this thread that this is like a child soldier or something. I don't want to see
he is. He's in the reserves.
I don't want to see these tools in his hand.
Conscription still exists in Finland. He's in the reserves.
With this kind of goatee, glasses and hairline should not be getting 45,000 faves. This is bad.
Yeah.
This is a human rights crisis.
This is someone needs to intervene.
I should if anyone, that's why we do this podcast. If anyone should be explaining European politics.
Please, Mr. Putin, my name is Yupli Lupluflufun.
Did you know, like, some of his later tweets are he's like quote tweeting his reply guy tweets to George Monbiot at something.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right. That should be me. I want to at Michael McFall and be like, dear sir, please listen to please retweet my thread on the
George Monbiot also had like a stupid tweet that he deleted. Did you see that?
No, but I'm not surprised.
George Monbiot is
This is why George Monbiot, no offense to any fans out there, I know he's climate stuff. He's a little fish emoji. they're a little fishy. There's a lot of fish emoji guys out there. Most can't see the fucking forest for the trees, motherfucker, in the world. You can't see the forest for the trees because you're just a fish. You're just swimming around in the ocean. And everyone's looking to you for their analysis of world events.
Rob is grasping to try and figure out what the fish emoji means.
It means something.
It's just
dire. Whenever you see this stuff, whenever you see like that
we're gonna find out. This is gonna be like the new Amazon box emoji.
that Livre MP in Portugal with the EU red and black fish emoji. You just send them the fish emoji and move on.
Back in the 1930s, democracies turned their backs on democratic Spain.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't even know this part. We're bringing up Spain.
Yeah, that's not what happened, man. They supported Franco. They actively crushed, and it wasn't because they were a democracy. It was because they were something else, something you supposedly support. But like, yeah, the George Monbiot tweet was just fucking hilarious because it was he gave, in response to this, he gave the example of like, imagine if the UK annexed a portion of Ireland on the grounds that they speak English and they were defending like an ethnic minority, and everyone just killed him in the quote tweets being like, yeah, it's called Northern Ireland.
This is the best tweet in the thread, because this is where like he talks about Finlandization. I'm not really sure what he means by that.
Finlandization feels very... I need to look into it and read about like what people think that means, but Finlandization strikes me as very social market economy, as in like you just gave a different branding to a certain thing, because like when people were talking about the Finlandization of Ukraine, what they kind of meant was just like an enforced neutrality. Which would be good.
Jana's way of describing it is a country that is at the mercy of the Kremlin. Like we were during the Cold War, we being Finland, maybe overtly democratic, but only as long as the people are wise enough to only choose candidates that are acceptable to the Kremlin. The far right in Sweden and Europe are the ones the Kremlin, Russia is. Blah, blah, blah.
This guy's a fucking lip.
This one's very funny to me. This one's very funny to me. In Finland, our social democracy could effectively end.
Okay.
With it, the experiment to create a sustainable social democracy would suffer and probably end as well. If the Nordic experiment then fails, what do the left has to offer to the world then?
Not that. Something better.
When you get if
your country sucks,
literally everything. When you get to the end, and it's like, wait, you think the left is just Nordic countries?
Yeah, he does. He absolutely
is that
does.
actually what you think?
He's a fucking child.
Wow, that's some fish emoji. That's some fish emoji bullshit.
But like, okay, that's the episode title, fish emoji bullshit. But like because like that's also just so goddamn falsifiable. Like just our social democracy could end because we would have to elect pro-Putin candidates. So I was like, well, you've had since pro-Kremlin candidates do this. Like, you've had since 1945 to do for this process to take hold because of Finlandization or whatever. And Finland is still one of the most robust social democracies on the continent. So, any moment this will kick in. In contrast, a country that has always continuously been combative and hawkish towards Russia had the most precipitous drop from post-war social democracy guarantee to complete neoliberal hellscape. The UK, what the fuck are you talking about? Being shit to Russia is also no guarantee that your social democracy will fucking last. It's almost as if other forces are deteriorating European post-war social democracy, and it's not just how mean or not you are to Russia.
Can we talk about
you?
Can we talk about the antidote to the fish emoji?
The antidote?
The antidote, the opposite. If you're feeling a little fish emoji, you should take this emoji pill.
What's this?
The parrot emoji.
The fucking parrot.
Can you explain who De Parrot is on Twitter?
I can't. He's he's ungraspable. He's he's like when you close your eyes in the sun for too long. You just got that little blob in your eye that you're trying to look at, you're trying to grasp, but it's always just out of view. His handle is at Der Parrot, right?
At Der_Parrot. Yeah.
Der_Parrot. His picture is a fat parrot. That's his profile picture. He changes his username quite a bit, but he's just insane liberal.
Hold on. I'll read the bio.
Based liberal.
He's actually based.
I think we've talked about him before. I think we brought him up before and described him as the based liberal. This is the fucking parrot.
He's a German man, I assume.
Hang on. Before you describe, I just want to say, I found this guy, right?
That's true, you did.
But Rob has such a very particular taste when it comes to guys on Twitter that I'm still so proud that I saw this guy immediately send one of his tweets to Rob, and Rob was like, yes, stood up out of the seat, started clapping, and shit. I was this. I feel like, you know when you that feeling you get when you finally make the macaroni drawing that your dad actually likes? I finally did it.
I am very proud of you, son.
Thank you.
There's some he has a certain poetry to the way he talks about things where Poland Ball, a classic from I would read way back in the day, is his cover image, which is a very fitting representation of his view of the world and politics, which is Europe should be based, so we should just act based. But he repeats based enough that you realize, even though he says he's in his 30s, he acts like a 16-year-old.
Sure.
I don't know. For the like 2 days I actually had TikTok, what kept coming up were like people making like dank history memes, like
you need to train the
Hitler
algorithm.
doing the such and such, and then it like cuts, and then it's like my face when the Soviets in 1943, like, you know, it's something that kind of stuff, which is like, I don't know, excruciating to me because it's like, you know, it's just like
I like when they get. I know I like some of them, but only when there's like so nonsensical.
oh, of course.
I like there was that one like 14-year-old kid dancing to like Burning Through, where he just had Kaiser written on his shirt, and then like halfway through when burning through like hits, he's just like on the ground dead. And I was like, I don't know what this means. I think you're doing a history meme. Go on. Sorry.
It's just like this literally facile and like infantile understanding of like the world politics, which I can't knock on because that's like what your
Welcome to the podcast.
People barely understand like their own like history, politics, whatever of their own country. You're not incentivized at all to learn about it. You get no extra credit points. You'll probably just make yourself miserable if you learn about it.
Yeah.
Now imagine like, oh, I'm going to learn about the world and all these different crazy characters that there are out there. And like, it is the opposite of the fish emoji, because instead of talking about the power yet fragility of democracy, you're just like, I don't care. I want to be based, and we're based.
Yeah.
And what if we were epic and owned Putin? That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'll do it.
You say things like that, and then you also post, this is literally his third most recent photo, blurry zoomed in photo of a plate of food. Caption, what do the Indian followers think of the chicken masala I made? Sorry, chicken masla.
Oh, did you spell it wrong?
Yeah, I assume so.
Oh.
He's getting some earnest 5 to 6 out of 10s. But that's a beautiful. Again, you need to not have shame if you're going to do this.
I mean, he 100% has like Indian followers.
What's so great? Sorry, I cut you off. His like task, according to his bio, is building a European YouTube community to counter American centrism. Yeah. And the thing is, I think he's going to do it. Like, this is exactly the YouTube content. Like, you know, are you a European out there on YouTube, sick of American content? Listen to Der Parrot, who will just be epic, and you can feel great watching his videos.
Like the thing about that title that strikes me so weird, because I tried to find his YouTube channel, I can't really, or it had nothing on it, I can't quite remember.
Oh my god!
Oh, you're playing some shit.
Yeah.
It strikes me as someone who's like, he's trying to build a European community, and I think I described it once before to you that he's trying to like make a because he said this before in a tweet. He's trying to make a liberal answer to BreadTube, to like leftists online, but like specifically he's trying to build up and find other creators. It's not just him. Which, you know, good luck or whatever to your Poland ball community. What was his the one you told me on the way here fucking blew my mind. What was his answer to this whole like Russian conflict?
One of his tactics was today adding Twitter to ask Twitter to tell you if you're being reported from tweets within Russia. Like, so clearly his tweet was reported, and he's thinking, how do I know these aren't Russians trying to censor me? Twitter, can you please do something about this?
I first found him for being like your typical German Zionist kind of thing, so that explains the Indian followers.
He hates Southern Europe. He loves owning Southern Europe. And the thing is, Southern Europe isn't owned the way Putin is. It's honestly a Bismarckian divide and conquer strategy, where Southern Europe is like...
I love that you said Bismarckian. Go on.
Southern Europe is like Austria, whose power must be, checked, but kept in, the nexus. Is Russia just Russia?
Russia's just an adversary, but this metaphor is Russia just Russia. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, now I'm getting tripped up because I was going to say Russia is France, where you can just go whole hog, just smash them. Maybe Russia has to be.
I don't know enough
America.
about Bismarck.
The point is that Southern Europe isn't getting owned the same way he wants to own Russia because they have to be your sidekick you can kick around.
Yeah,
and that is what being an epic-based European is all about.
Yeah, because it's adhering to the Emily in Paris stereotypes of a bunch of like stereotypes that are just not true, and you will like roll your eyes and complain that they're not true, but at the same time you're just kind of, they're all really like harmless stereotypes, like Germans are orderly and Italians make good food or something. It's very dumb, but he posts very stupid stuff. Do you have any other gems there? Do we have more?
His most recent post is a photo of his forearm with some burn marks on it, saying, "This is why you like blisters," and it says, "This is why you shouldn't deep fry things at home."
Yeah.
All right.
Good job, dude.
Good job, man. He's just like, he's literally like, we're talking like a bug man creature, I assume, just posting about what he's learned about, like just thinking out loud, and interacting with this wonderful community of Europeans, and they're having a laugh over their over the greatest hits.
Yeah.
LOL Spain, Germany strong, Greece, you suck, but you can't leave. This is the unity. We got to end on this. This is the unity post. I'm going to at the Fishman in this. This is, okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah?
All right, here it is. This is from January 24th. I know I'm this is from, if this wasn't obvious, Dare Parrot. I know I'm a hard-nosed liberal who often disagrees with the far left. All right?
Yeah.
But I am happy to see many European leftists break with their American comrades over the issue of Ukraine.
Yes.
We may disagree on much, but we are all Europeans in the end.
Yeah.
This is he should have, first of all, stop subtweeting the Fishman.
Give him credit.
give him credit. Give him credit. This is European Shape of Water. Dare Parrot is fucking the Fishman.
It's like, where the fuck are you going? Parrot's fucking the Fishman.
And
God damn
what is it? Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Who plays a prominent role? The fucking Russian spies, man. They're trying to keep, Russia is in the movie, and they're trying to break up. Now I'm forgetting the plot.
Yeah, the Russians were actually the good guys in that.
I thought they were trying to break up the love of
the CIA was the
That's
the
true, but the Russians were like, didn't they kill someone? I think they were also supposed to be bad.
I can't quite
All right, before we
remember.
end this episode, I'm looking up the plot of The Shape of Water.
I remember there being controversy for it being like
we could start Euro vibes.
Soviet sympathetic.
Maybe Dirk Kraut thought that.
I don't think I knew De Kraut back then, thankfully.
That's how he got big.
Der Parrot. Parrot. Oh, God. This is going to be a recurring character. Especially,
I honestly can't do him justice. Like, you just have to. I think the first time we brought him up, I talked about the new breed of like epic liberal posters.
Yes,
like used to be your alt-right and your base leftist and everyone posting, and now there are a bunch of liberals posting, and I honestly think it's the worst of the bunch.
Yeah, I am. Rob, I feel like your account should just retweet him. I feel like people.
I'm down to do that.
I feel like you should just post your like once every 2 weeks top banger tweet that you do, but every time just log into Twitter and just like retweet the latest Dare Parrot tweet and just show our audience this lovely man. not even quote tweet, just pump it onto people's timelines. Are you reading the plot of Shape of Water right now?
Oh, sorry, I was back at Dare Parrot.
No, you don't. No, that's actually better. Do that.
I don't understand what happens in this movie. I remember the guy gets shot. If anyone here remembers The Shape of Water, please at Ciarán or DM him just to figure out how this fits in.
I'm pretty sure it was Soviet sympathetic, and that was kind of like scandalous at the time, and everyone was like, well, it's Gail Totoro, and he's kind of like that. Because, the movie he got famous for was
so Michael
very
Shannon.
anti-Franco.
Michael Shannon is the Americans, obviously, because he's the CIA.
Yeah.
And he can't have the Fishman and Der Parrot get together because Europe would become too strong.
Okay.
He has to keep them separate.
Uh-huh.
And the Russians are there spying.
Yep.
Because they want to steal how to make leftists love
like make the
love their country.
Want to make your
how to trick all the Russian leftists into supporting Putin.
To create in a lab the like instead of the Finnish fishman, it's like the Karelian fishman just across the border, doing like epic posts about how leftists in Russia shouldn't support NATO.
And then the Russian.
Do you think that's
spy,
the type of guy? Do you think there's like a Russian poster who's like, we must support NATO?
If you or someone you know is that person, tell them to come on the podcast. We'd love to interview them.
All right, I think that's an episode. We've been going for a bit.
Yeah, we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the bonus episode. We're probably going to be talking about Ukraine for a while.
Wasn't that fun? You almost forgot about the. You almost forgot. You
just
the Russia-Ukraine crisis at the end. Just
strong recommendation to follow Dare_Parrot. He's wild.
I want a YouTube debate him.
we got a YouTube channel now. We could upload that. We could live stream to YouTube you debating Dare Parrot.
I'm going to debate him. I wonder. He's definitely German.
He would definitely say yes.
Yeah.
He would 100%.
What if he will only debate in German?
You could do it.
Let's fucking do it. I mean, I won't be nearly as articulate, but
that's the point, Rob.
I would like to stonewall him.
I mean, no, yeah, he would definitely say you build up the atmosphere of actually ruining him in the quote tweets, and then he will say yes.
All right, yeah, we gotta go.
You gotta go. All right, see you on the main feed.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao.